Here then, I said, my own dream. Whether coming through the horn or the ivory gate, I cannot tell. The dream is this. Horn and ivory. Let us suppose that wisdom is such as we are now to term ivory tower, and that she has absolute sway over from fall. Then, with later action originally day, and when 19 blind-eyed, I know what the other sound was silent or eyes or ivory, or in the smell, sheen, or just salt savor of the. This is the Ivory Tower. More specifically, this is Hawksmoor Towers at All Souls College in Oxford, which is the only pure research college at Oxford. As the academy that arguably towers above all others, then, the pure research college at the most collegey college of them all would seem a fitting avatar for our conception of the Ivory Tower. However, the first reference to the tower is biblical, in the Song of Solomon. Your neck is like an ivory tower. This simile has, since the 12th century, been interpreted as an epithet for the Virgin Mary. It wasn't until the 19th century that the term ivory tower took on a more pejorative meaning as the isolated and rarefied world of the intellectual elite. Where the Virgin Mary and the ivory tower intersect is in the iconography of the Hortus Conclusus, Latin for enclosed garden. This metaphor describes Mary's immaculate conception, or birth without sin. Images of the Hortus Conclusus clearly echo the secluded sanctuaries unsullied by vulgar or quotidian concerns that might characterize life in the ivory tower of academia. But our tower is neither immaculate nor unsullied. It is assailed from inside and out, beset with questions of ethics and integrity and relevance and effectiveness. Our tower is assailed. And it is burning. Not really. But obviously there are problems. Here are some. Academic honesty, academic freedom, tenure, the adjunct crisis, the cost of education, jobs. This guy plagiarized and was named dean anyway. This guy tweeted some politically charged, questionably appropriate stuff about Gaza, and his tenure was blocked. And then there's the question of tenure itself. It's a sweet gig. The tower protects its own. You can go way out there and still have a castle and many fat cattle to which you can return. But absolute power corrupts absolutely, as the saying goes, and there absolutely are corrupt cattle grazing their way through tenure appointments, keeping other folk from getting jobs, etc. And then there's adjuncts, the indentured servants at the tower banquet. Don't get me started. And this guy who challenged his department head and was suspended, kicked unceremoniously out of court because he fell out of favor with the monarch. And this guy who asked his students to step on a piece of paper with the word Jesus written on it to illustrate that words have power and was placed on administrative leave to, quote, protect his safety. Stanley Fish has a very good time saying some very interesting things about the ethics of such an activity, concluding in the end that he, quote, doesn't know if the activity or the university's response was justified. Fish doesn't know. After all that, the academic I don't know that academics know is more often than not the most honest response to any question. And that answer brings into high relief why non-Towerites might take issue with what the heck is done in the tower and what good it does anybody. But Fish also illustrates another important point: the talking, the knowledge, the discourse, the joy of exchanging ideas, learning awesome new things, making connections that bring to life a dead and disenfranchised corpus of facts. Here in the tower, we are the Dr. Frankensteins of knowledge and wisdom, lovingly crafting our monsters in the hope, we hope, that they will do good. That is the dream. But, like Socrates says in that quote from Charmides, whether the dream comes through the horn or the ivory gate, we cannot tell. And there's that word again, ivory. The first reference to the horn and ivory gates is in the Odyssey, in which Penelope dreams that Odysseus is coming home. According to the metaphor, dreams that come through the horn gate are truthful, and dreams that come through the ivory gate are deceitful. It's actually a play on words. The Greek word for horn is similar to the word for fulfill, and the word for ivory is similar to deceive. References to the horn and ivory gates show up all over literature after the classical period. in Odin's Horae Canonicae, Eliot's Ash Wednesday, and, get this, Spenser's The Fairy Queen, which is an allegorical work that likens the Virgin Queen Elizabeth I to, wait for it, the Virgin Mary, and the Hortus Conclusus, and the Ivory Tower, and the Song of Solomon. Bummer, and yet perhaps appropriate, that the Ivory Gate is the deceitful gate, but oh, the wheels within wheels, and the cogs within cogs, and knowledge is so cool. And that's why we do it, or at least why I do it. That we get to question the tower and challenge the tower is as much a part of its lure as it is a fact of its deceit. The reality that many of those questions are valid validates the tower. Is the Ivory Tower this, or this, or this, or this? Yes. What does it mean? Socrates says, "Now I quite agree that mankind, thus provided, would live and act according to knowledge, for wisdom would watch and prevent ignorance from intruding on us. But whether by acting according to knowledge we shall act well and be happy, my dear Critias, that is a point which we have not yet been able to determine."